do.
You leave yourself room to improvise in the spaces.
Yes, exactly. For me, sometimes solos can take the song too far out of context. I feel like when it's needed for the music, I take a solo. But sometimes songs are so beautiful that you don't need that extra stuff in the middle. You kind of just play the song.
So you don't see these as vehicles. It's not like Coltrane playing My Favorite Things, which has a theme, it's repeated, and then it's 15 minutes of exploration of.
Right. Not this particular song and not this particular album. But there are times where I do explore and really get in there.
Like stretch out.
Yeah, exactly. There are times for that. But this particular album wasn't necessarily for that. It was built more for the person who just likes to listen to pop and R&B and hip hop, that kind of vibe.
What do you like as a listener? You have it's a little bit of everything on this record. There's a Radiohead cut called Reckoner, hip hop covers,
Joni Mitchell, and I grew up with so much music in my home. My mother was a singer. She'll do a Broadway gig one night, a jazz gig one night, a pop gig one night, a country gig, funk gig, and then she was the music director at church on Sundays. You know what I mean? So there was.
You grew up in Houston.
Yes.
And your mother was in what kind of church?
Baptist church. She was the director of the choir. She would take me to all the rehearsals and to church, and even to a lot of her gigs. I would be at her shows. When I was like literally 2 years old. I was on the main stage when I was 11, playing at church.
You got lessons, I assume?
Kinda. Every blue moon, but not really. Just kind of did it. I kind of once I started playing, I kind of just went off on a tangent and just learned songs.
You had never had lessons in your life?
I took 6 months of classical lessons when I was in 7th grade, and then I took 1 year or 2 years of gospel lessons when I was in 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, hold the phone. After you just played that, you've never taken more than a year or two of lessons?
No, not at all.
Mothers at home are listening to this and crying. They have no way to convince their kids to sit there like I did for years.
But I was the only child, and all I did was play the piano. Once I started playing, that's what I loved to do. So my mother...
And you could play on the keyboard what you were hearing in your head?
Yes, I could play what I hear in my head, and I would love to learn songs off the radio.
I hate you.
The
theory, too? You could just pick this up like nothing?
Theory, yes. And I got really good at theory once I went to the High School for Performing Arts in Houston.
Now, are you going to make a gospel record at some point?
Yes, I am going to make a gospel record. I'm putting it together in my mind now. I don't know when it's going to come out or when I'm actually going to do it, but I see it being done in the next year or two, for sure.
Now, before we leap off of the current album, I have to say that the covers are all over the place. There's a Joni Mitchell, a John Legend, and you cover a song by Kendrick Lamar, who may be the figure in hip-hop today, and you've worked with him a lot. And you've taken Dying of Thirst, one of his best-known, most political tracks, and made it your own.
Dying of thirst, don't want the corner, look at the coroner, daughter is dead, mother is mourning, straight bullets, AK bullets, resuscitation was waiting patiently, but they couldn't, bring her back, who got the footage, channel 9, cameras is looking, it's hard to channel your energy when you know it crooked, banana clip, split his banana pudding.
Yeah, so you hear that, and you say to yourself, now I'm going to do my version.
This song just speaks to me. So what I did was I got my son and a few of his friends to just take the names of some of the people who were killed by the police in the last few years,
Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin.
And unfortunately, even since we recorded, there's been so many more, It's unfortunate that I might have to do a part 2.
Rakia Boyd, Ayana Jones, Oscar Grant III.
Now, when you work with Kendrick Lamar, how does that collaboration?
It was really cool because I literally recorded that album the same night I recorded my album, Covered. Before I did my recording, Terrace Martin, a good friend of mine who is a producer on that album, called me and said, hey, when you finish your recording, can you run over here to Dr. Dre's recording? Kendrick's here, we want you to play on some stuff. And I was like, cool.
With no preparation, with no notion?
No, none. They played me the track they wanted me to play. I listened to it once or twice, and then I played it.
I was lucky you had a year and a half of lessons.
Yeah. So then after I played that one track, Kendrick was like, oh man, pull up so-and-so, pull up this track, pull up that track. So I literally sat down and played like 7 or 8 songs that night.
Robert, is it a problem as well as a gift in the music business to be someone who is trying all different kinds of things? Is it a commercial difficulty?
It can be, because most people, when they do something, they do one thing and they do one thing well. You know what I mean? This is what I do and this is what it is. I play jazz, that's what I'm going to play, and that's what it is. And people,
That's hard enough.
And that's hard enough, and people put a label on you and you have to stay there. But, you know, I was blessed to be good at more than one thing. So why am I only going to do one thing? You know, especially when we're talking about music that come from my people, like African American music. We're talking about rock music. We're talking about hip hop music. We're talking about jazz music. We're talking about blues. We're talking about gospel, and the list goes on and on. And all that music is in my blood. I don't see where it should be a problem or where it should be like a mystery.
Do you feel the music business is putting any demands on you, or do you live outside of that?
People try to put demands on me, but I'm trying to knock those down whether they like it or not.
And what are the demands? What do they want out of you?
Well, people want to keep you in a box. They want to keep you in the jazz box. So when you get out of that, it's like, what are you doing? Even the jazz community is like, hey, what are you doing? You're leaving us. You know, how dare you leave us? You know, it's like a crazy ex-wife or something. Like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to the store. I'll be back. I'm not abandoning you, Jazz. Chill out.
Robert Glasper, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Robert Glasper. This year he released the record Covered. He's on tour now, playing this week in Chicago. I'm David Remnick, and this is the New Yorker Radio Hour. More to come.
The New Yorker Radio Hour is supported by Audible.com, a provider of downloadable audiobooks and spoken word content with a wide range of titles, including new releases. Learn more at audible.com/radio hour, and by Squarespace, providing tools to create a professional website. Learn more at squarespace.com/radio hour. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
Donald Trump says we should keep Muslims from entering the country until, quote, we can figure out what's going on, unquote. We agree this much. What the hell is going on? If you're tired of politics, enjoy some comfort food with famed chef Jacques Pepin, and Nico Case returns to our panel, where oddly, we never let her sing. I'm Peter Sagal. Join us for Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, the news quiz on NPR.
Today at 11 on WNYC.
WNYC receives support from Squarespace, a website builder that provides domains, hosting, and website templates, all with 24/7 customer support. Learn more at squarespace.com/WNYC. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
Donald Trump is sort of paralleling Archie Bunker and appealing to people who are simply dismayed by all the change that's going on, by political correctness, by the influx of immigrants.
It's not just the news, it's your next conversation. Hear it on Morning Edition and be ready to make the most of your day. Listen every morning on WNYC.
I'm David Remnick. Welcome back to the New Yorker Radio Hour. Now I'm going to try to describe a long, complicated journey. So get out your mental map of the United States. Start at the headwaters of the Mississippi River in northern Minnesota. Get in a canoe. Go all the way down the Mississippi, past New Orleans, to the Gulf of Mexico. That would be pretty amazing. Inconceivable as far as anyone else is concerned, but we're not done. Now turn around and head north, paddling up the Mobile River. Take a couple of turns into Tennessee, almost to the Virginia border. Hitch a ride over the Appalachian Mountains, then get back in the water and go down the James River, eventually reaching the Atlantic near Portsmouth, Virginia. It sounds incredible, but a man named Dick Conan spent years taking voyages just like that. He wasn't some wild kid. He didn't start until he was in his 40s. He was already overweight with a lot of medical problems behind him. And he described his life to Ben McGrath, who's a staff writer at The New Yorker, right after they met, absolutely by chance, right outside Ben's house in the suburbs of New York. And now Ben has this story of a difficult but truly remarkable life.
So here, we're in the town of Piermont, New York, which is about 15 miles north of the George Washington Bridge on the west side of the Hudson River. And I like to go kayaking, usually in the mornings. And the day I met Dick, which was Labor Day of 2014, I was going to take my 2-year-old kayaking, and my neighbor peeked his head over that wall, and he said, "There's somebody in here who I think you might want to meet." So I started walking over to my neighbor Scott's house, and before heading inside, I noticed at this point that there's this dirty red canoe tied up to the base of his seawall. It's covered in tarps and some trash bags maybe, and it's got army duffels. I mean, it really looked like it had been packed for the apocalypse. And inside, sitting at the head of the long rectangular table, was Dick Conant. He said he was 63, and he had a big beard, and he was bright red, and he probably weighed 300 pounds. He had these dusty denim bib overalls. I mean, I remember having the impression that it was as though Santa Claus had canoed into town. And he was kind of holding forth, and I gathered that he was about 2 months into a journey that he expected it to last at least another 6 more months. And he had begun up by the Canadian border, and was basically going to be taking a chain of rivers and canals down the Atlantic seaboard and ending up in Florida. And he was on this journey for, from what I could tell, no particular reason. It quickly became clear that this was not his first insane voyage. In fact, within a couple of minutes of my arriving, he was telling a story about how he once almost got run over by a barge on the Mississippi at night. As it happened, he'd basically been crisscrossing the country alone in a canoe for the better part of 2 decades. But I missed the opportunity to really draw him out on the particulars of those trips, because I did, after all, have my 2-year-old with me, and he was threatening to destroy my neighbor's house. So it wasn't really until the next morning when I woke up and thought, okay, I gotta find this guy again. So I got some binoculars and drove down south, and after a while, sort of hiking along the shore, I was able to see off in the distance this flashing yellow plastic paddle. When he got within earshot of me, I yelled his name and started waving him ashore. And he backed the boat in, and he just decided to set up camp right there.
I'm due for a good break. I might make camp right here. I'm exhausted.
Right.
Is there a place you can sit? Do you have something to drink, like a soda pop?
I don't want to, unfortunately. Sorry.
Would you like one?
No, I don't want to waste your supplies.
Yeah, it's no waste. Believe me.
When we started talking, and I began to learn the very long and mysterious life of Dick Conant.
I was born in Germany. We lived in Germany for 3 years. My dad was with Army Armor, so we moved down to Kentucky, Fort Knox, for 4 years. But
he had grown up, actually, a bit of an Army brat. He'd been all over the place, but most of his schooling as a boy was done in Pearl River, New York. Pearl River is a pretty ordinary suburb now, but in the 50s and 60s when he was there, it did really think of it as kind of Mark Twain country. It was winding country roads, and the upper reaches of the Hackensack River were there. And they had a little dinghy, and they would kind of go up and down. Dick, in fact, invented a club that it was called Catfish Yacht Club. So there's a way in which, throughout all of his life, he saw himself as a kind of an epic adventurer. He was at the top of his high school class. He had a full scholarship to college. He was a hugely talented man who had, because of various troubles he had, not amounted to much in a conventional sense.
Maybe I had a really checkered career, what you call it. I worked on the railroad in Wyoming.
He had worked on the railroad in Wyoming. He had worked on the oil rigs. He was a coal miner. He was a janitor. He worked in hospitals. He was a weather observer. He was in the Navy. He worked selling, most recently before I met him, he'd been selling bus tickets at a Greyhound